We're only 11 months from when we announced our declaration, and it's now, what, 73 countries, 600 or 700 groups. You know, this fortnight we've got, like, actions in at least 60 cities around the world. We're going to have millions of people displaced by what's happening to the planet. 85% of people in Britain are really concerned about it. That's got to turn into something more than just being concerned. And that's why we're on the streets. We have to get beyond that partisan, attritional sort of behaviour where one person is right and someone else is wrong, because this is bigger. This is bigger than all of us. Whether you're people in XR or whether you're Boris or whether you're Krusty the fucking Clown, when the seas rise, we're all fucked. So, well, I'm not going to tell you where we are because this isn't our arch, and so we wouldn't want to get anyone in trouble. But what we're doing is we're creating a kind of an Extinction Rebellion atelier. We're making posters, pasting them up overnight, and it's a really creative rebellion. To have joy in what we're doing is really important because the situation is so desperately sad. It's not just about reversing carbon emissions. We've got to change the way we live.
I've been very involved in the commercial art world for years. Art as product, art as investment, and this is the antidote to all that. Art
has constantly been co-opted to give that propaganda message. I mean, you even had, like, Churchill, the Ministry of Defence wanted to take away some of the art budget, and, you know, it's one of those probably made-up quotes about Churchill who said, you know, if we don't have art, then what are we fighting for?
Part of what we wanted to do is just sort of find an easy method. All you need is a knife and some ideas.
And that was always what we wanted to do with the design, was that it needed to be confrontational and recognisable, but not perfect. It needed to be something that anyone can pick up. You know, people might see what's happening here on a Tuesday in London, maybe by Thursday in Rio, maybe someone's doing something similar because they've seen what we're doing. That's the hope. I mean, it's kind of worked for XR so far. People keep on saying, you know, you can't stop it. Well, of course you can. Because if we don't, Mother Nature will. She doesn't give a shit.
I first got involved when I came to the rebellion in April, and I came along thinking, surely if it was this bad, we'd know about it. So as a result of looking into the science, really digging into all the peer-reviewed journals, all the evidence, speaking to top climate scientists across the globe, I can now categorically say there is absolutely no doubt that we are in absolutely dire circumstances. We're not being told the truth. It's just been so horrific finding this out, and I've barely had a good night's sleep since.
This is unequivocal. And it's not just bad, it's really, really bad.
We're the glue that holds the spaces together. You'll see the flags, you'll see the banners, the colours, and every site you go to will be slightly different, but then there'll be these constant reminders that this is an Extinction Rebellion space. Previous movements have struggled because they've appealed to very, very certain groups of people, whereas I think we designed and created something that has broader appeal. Visualising the sort of anger and peacefulness of the movement. Would you say that was?
Yeah, at the same time. I'd already gone through quite a lot of grief for thinking that it's over. So when I met some people who seemed like they were going to try some tactics that might work because the world's going to fall apart and I'm going to just have to watch it for the rest of my life get worse and worse, I think, well, I've literally got nothing better to do.
We said actually a week. is not really enough time to turn out some really good design. And they gave us 6 months. The naming and all of that was done in that initial stage. And it was really key for us to have a broad colour scheme. And we look back at lots of other movements as well in the past, Paris 68, all of that sort of stuff, to see how they used some of these tactics themselves. So we sort of adopted a lot of those ideas and brought them into the 21st century. Like our design program, you can just get sent it and you can start designing stuff. It's a simple guideline. There's only 3 rules in it. Use the font, use the logo, use the colours. That's it. We sort of act as a beacon to ask people to come and join us because the space doesn't feel exclusive, it feels inclusive.
Thank you.
Art has given me a way to visually scream my message. I mean, you can scream with your mouth all day, but then if you scream with an image, that's something you can take home with you in your mind.
So listen to your heart. Olay, 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 oh mama.
What does art mean to me? It means survival.
There's a wonderful saying that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Music is the art form that all other art forms aspire to. And a great song is one of the most powerful tools we have in change making and bringing attention and a sense of awareness to the wider community, which is what we're trying to do here, that this is a situation we, the people, are not going to ignore, and we are not going to let the government ignore either. So when the Extinction Rebellion movement started, I was there right at the first one in Parliament Square, very aware that here was a movement that was speaking close to my heart, drawing attention to the disappearance of the natural world and the consequences that's going to have on us.
I was involved in Extinction Rebellion leading up to the last rebellion, but when it came to the actual week, I had to go on tour, and just watching everything unfold in London, I just thought, this is where it's fucking at, right? This is really fucking cool. It's beautiful, and music's getting out of date because it needs to shift over to this way of being.
I've been involved in many ways. I've been part of a little bit of the programming of the Trafalgar Square stage with Music Declares. I've been singing quite a bit, particularly singing folk songs at moments of tension, been called into sites where there's escalation or there's stress or there's conflict with police, to bring a sense of calm.
We started Music Declares Emergency to get the music industry involved in the climate movement and to sort of create a bridge for some of the bigger companies like Universal, Sony, Warner, them sort of diving right into Extinction Rebellion. Because lots of musicians fly, venues use plastic, everything's quite polluting.
Music has been such a huge part of the modern protest movement through the 60s and 70s and going back hundreds of years and perhaps longer, as the one way that community can come together and voice concern in a unified, powerful, singular way, which was so powerful in connecting heart to cause, which is really what we need to do, is we need to change people's hearts first. Minds are more complicated because people are more fixed there, but when you reach deep in the heart, in the way that only a song can change people's lives and really bring the momentum that we need to a movement.
Loads of huge artists from the music industry are getting involved, and this movement doesn't need any added credibility, but it brings the endorsement of those artists, which brings their fan bases and increases the size and the strength of the movement. Policy as it is right now, we're heading to a minimum of 4 degrees of temperature rise before the end of this century. Scientists call that catastrophic. So that's why people are on the streets. They're trying to tell that truth, and they're trying to vision a different future where we're not extinct.
How do we engage a community that does not have the time or privilege to engage with this? you take those with the time and the privilege and go to them. And within XR, I do a lot of outreach work because I'm a representative of people that can't be here, that don't know about this, don't feel welcomed here. And I feel a sort of responsibility to do something about that. I have a privileged position of understanding both sides because that's what the arts does. It moves you around socially.
With others in the arts sector, we began to question, well, what's the role of arts in response to what Extinction Rebellion has mobilised? So we formed Culture Declares Emergency, and since then we've had over 600 organisations and individuals declare emergency. And the reason we're inviting cultural institutions to make that declaration, it means that we can then put pressure on those to take meaningful action.
It's like, what are you actually doing? I mean, now the National Theatre has dropped Shell, the RSC to drop its sponsorship with BP.
I think there's diversity within XR, but it's not a lot. And XR is worldwide, so who are we talking about really? It's XR Ghana, XR Nigeria, it's all over the place. So actually what we're talking about is the representation of XR within the media in this country, and that's a very different thing. For people to see themselves within the movement, how can I do that? That's the real issue within XR. Because there are people like me doing this work, you just don't know who we are.
I think kind of the common ground with all of us here is that we're really scared about what's happening.
That's one of the cool things about XR is that no matter what you're capable of doing, no matter what your skills are, you can just turn up and there's something for you to do, whether that's helping out in the kitchen or reading a poem.
XR has all these different areas, the arts area, the music area, engineers, scientists, business, it has a political area. But, and this is the key difference, XR creates a structure that encourages us to work together.
I'm here because the science is telling us that we need a revolution, right? And I think what Extinction Rebellion has brought is a revolution of action. But right now, what we also need, concurrently happening, is a revolution of the imagination. We need artists to start dreaming, to extending the boundaries of what is and what is not possible. What we're doing right here now is a political movement, but it is also an artistic movement.
Taking what you are passionate about as an individual and then bringing it to this movement so that together we can share our strengths and move forward and make change. Yeah.
From fashion brands like Vivienne Westwood to organisations like BFI, Royal Shakespeare Company, within the music sector, all the major labels have now signed up to Carbon Zero by 2030. So there's loads of them. We admit this is happening. And with all these bodies coming together, you can then lobby big government to say, look, we can't actually achieve something that we as an industry want. For the design industry and the advertising industry, it's absolutely simple. You get rid of all your oil and gas clients, you sack your automobile clients. If your agency has an airline on its books, if it has fast-moving consumer goods, then you do not want to be working for them. If the agencies won't sack them, then the people that work for the agencies should refuse to work for the agencies. The advertising industry have been absolute fucking arseholes and have been in total denial about it, and it needs to stop. If you're not actively doing good with the work that you're doing, then you are effectively doing bad. And we're surrounded by communication and messaging, and most of it is simply to make people money at the expense of the planet and of people.
So this is Worthywood. It's an old gypsy lullaby rewritten to imagine what a lullaby might be that we would sing to our children to tell them why the land is the way it is. Sleep, my darling, darling, little one. Sleep, my lovely, lovely little one. For your heart is heavy gold, for your precious hands to hold.
The big corporations need to make changes. We can't do this all on our own. It needs to be bigger than that.
Sleep, my darling, darling little one.
We need to stop producing as well as consuming. We all need to be planting trees. I don't know how many people went to Boomtown Festival this year, but everyone that bought a ticket to that festival, their ticket went towards planting a tree. So thousands of trees were planted because of people purchasing tickets for that festival. These are really easy partnerships that we can start to build.
Diminishing responsibility, inherit no one's tragedy.
Buy
What's,
nothing,
we'll
make
say
nothing,
people-
just fucking stop, think for a couple of years. There's enormous amounts of wealth. If that was vaguely, evenly spread.
Just have a few years off and use our collective brain power to try and work out how to sort this shit out.
We're confronting the issues and we are using imagination as our main tool because we don't have millions of pounds that we can pour into campaigns and web adverts and lobbying and think tanks. So what we have to use is our ideas and draw attention through art and performance. When the Red Rebels, you know, come swanning through in, you know, just dripping in art, how do you touch that? It's the greatest theatrical production. Just the sadness of it is it's a true story. All the evidence of climate change is that things are happening much faster than we predicted. So we've got to do something now. This is why I'm rebelling.